Welcome to the Foray Music Podcast. I'm Charlie.
I'm Alexandria.
I'm Amy.
On this week's pod, Terri Lyne Carrington takes huge strides towards gender justice, being honest about the challenges of touring, trying not to create and analyze at the same time, new music, and more. First off, what's new?
Hey,
Oh, okay, you got it.
you got it?
You got it.
I got it. Well, Alex and I went to hear Cecile McLaurin-Salvant last night, and I know this is not as dramatic as I would like it to be. Like, it's very dramatic in my head, and I know it's not in real life, but I'm just saying we planned it yesterday during the night. Like, it was like
Like 2 hours
7
before.
p.m., maybe 6. And we're talking about stuff. I asked her if she would come hear Alita Moses with me on Sunday, and she's like, Cecile's at the Blue Note. And I had never been there. So we literally were trying to figure out when to go, and we were like, well, we could go tonight. So we went to the 10:30 show, and it was just like, I forgot that I needed that kind of like, it's just so easy to get caught up in things, and it was just like a great wake up call. It was incredible music.
Crazy.
I loved watching Alex listen to it. Like, seriously,
Look constipated the whole
she
time.
does this one face where she's like, I can't do it well, but it was just beautiful. It was like incredible music with like a dear friend that I'm excited to hang out with more in this
Yay.
next chapter. And like, yeah, it was just awesome. So it really lit a fire in my soul.
And
I wanna do that more.
In my soul that I can't get copyright. What? I don't know.
If you're singing it, it's okay.
So
Right.
it just made me excited. I just think it's great, and it's important to do things that inspire you. So that was exciting to me because I'm like, all right, that did it.
Yeah, that show will do it.
She's crazy, dude.
She's crazy. Wow.
She's crazy.
And we had great conversation afterward. Like I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
That was the thing, not to just go on a whole tangent, but it made me like light and dark. I was like, Cecile is such an artist and very honest, all the things that an artist is that I admire, I guess.
Mhm.
And it also just made me dark about all the ego and baggage and annoying things that just exist. And it's like, you guys, just someone needs to like slap everyone lightly on the cheek and like wake everyone up.
Like this is the art you can
Yeah.
make if you get out of the way of your own ego. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel that.
There's a
Yeah.
cool thing about New York to just be like, yeah, we're gonna go see something at 10:30, and it's gonna be and take the train, and we don't have to like do a thing, you know.
But the worst thing happened. I like was coming from the Bronx because I had come from this like memoriam about 100 years Asian minor catastrophe, which I don't know what it is, but anyways. And my phone died and I had no idea where I was.
She showed up and she's like, the worst thing ever happened. My phone died. And I didn't know where I was. But she made it.
I made it.
You asked a couple,
I
right?
asked a couple. It's like, do you know where Blue Note is? I'm so lost. They're like, yeah, you go take a right, make 1 block here, there. I'm like, thanks.
And I got a tote bag, by the way.
Yeah, Amy got the super cute tote bag.
Like a Blue Note tote bag, or just like from
Yeah.
the store? Oh,
No, Blue Note tote bag.
was it like
I feel like-
$50 or was it okay?
It was a lot, wasn't it? Like, I'm pretty
don't
sure it
know.
was like $30. Definitely more than, but it was like one of those experiential purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
like a T-shirt, like a concert T-shirt kind of thing.
Which is so, yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
How was the Blue Note in general? Like, were there other like students there, or like younger folks, or like was it like older touristy people? Like, what did the audience feel like at the 10:30 show on a Wednesday?
I was thinking about that in line because I was noticing kind of like people that I perceived to be random or just like average. That's not so bad, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
They were
just
not very
people.
attractive. They were kind of.
No,
There were always ugly
no.
people there.
Like people who you just I would never associate with wanting to go hear jazz, I guess, which I don't know if maybe I need to check myself, but there were just
Yeah, there were some interesting people there.
and then some really young. I noticed some like pretty
Younger.
young students.
Yeah.
But not many people our age actually. Most of them were like older folks and then like maybe people just like going there on dates. I don't
Yeah,
know.
looked
It
like
seemed random.
Yeah, like date. I like who goes to on a date at the Blue Note, but that's
I
that's
guess.
that's fine if you go on a date to the Blue Note.
It was amazing.
We sat next to a really cool old guy who like acted like he knew every song. He's like, John Dowling, I have like a record of John Dowling. He's from like the 18th century. I was like, okay.
He was actually like hilarious because he was acting like he was like literally Miles Davis. Like he was like listing he had a list like yay big of like all the people he's ever heard at the Blue Note, but that was it. Like it wasn't like he was a musician. It was like, oh, I heard Chick Corea and Miles and the Weather Report, and like he literally went on for so long, but it was all just people he'd heard.
He just catches Pokemon at the
Yes, exactly.
Playing, like,
That's exactly
Pokemon
what it was
Go
like.
at the Blue Note.
Oh my God.
It was literally Blue Note Pokemon.
It was great. It was fantastic.
Mhm.
That show was great. Thank
Yeah.
you for convincing me to go.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Alexandria, how about you?
I had my first week as a professor at Berkeley College of Music, and that was so much fun. And I can't believe I am a professor, but half the students thought that I was a student when I walked in the class, and I don't blame them. I was a student like less than 6 months ago. But no, I loved it. I'm so happy to be teaching. I'm gonna learn so much. I'm learning how to be like, the borderline mean. You know what I feel like I'm.
story.
Oh my gosh.
Do it.
So I I have this one drummer in one of my ensembles, and we're learning a tune, and he just has his AirPods in, like on his phone, probably listening to some other music, and I was like, "Hi, I have like high expectations for my drummers. Like by the end of this tune, I want by the end of the class, I want you to be able to, tell me the harmony, of the tune." And so we get to the end of the class, and like brother can't do it. And I was like, "Yeah, maybe you still got to work on some things." Anyways, I was being so mean. I was like, this is usually not how I am, but I guess in order to command respect, like you have to be like when you're 5'2" and you look 15, you have to be a little mean so that they can like somewhat listen to you. It's so bad. But then I was nice the rest of the time. I was like, okay, let's have fun. But in that one moment, I was like, bro, really?
That's just high expectations. I don't really think that's too mean.
But you're gonna be on your phone,
Yeah.
listening to your AirPods, like, come on.
I don't think that's high
Yeah.
expectations. I don't think that's mean either. I think that's so funny that you think like, oh, I was being so mean. I wanted people to respect me.
Wow. That's heavy right there, actually.
But I'm so happy. I'm like literally so happy that I'm teaching because that's like my number one passion. Thanks to Charlie, because Charlie literally changed my life, and he doesn't believe me when I say that. But
I
when you have
believe
like a
you.
good teacher like Charlie and Peter and like all these people that
Mhm.
just like it makes you want to do good too.
Mhm.
I'll buy Peter Eldridge, but I'm still.
Oh my gosh,
Charlie.
Charlie!
No. We really do need to do just one pod without Charlie so we can just do a Charlie segment
Yeah.
where we tell our stories.
Our Charlie
I will
stories.
have a stroke.
Charlie would edit it all out. He'd be like, no, thank you.
I will not be able to. My blood will stop in my body.
My mom loves Charlie.
My mom too.
Anyways.
Love to all the moms in the world. That's very sweet. I don't think I've even met your mom, Amy. I guess I have at like concerts or something, right? Like,
No, maybe not, because honestly, they didn't come until senior year
oh, okay.
because of like the COVID stuff. But
Yeah.
she just knows you're JV2 though. She knows that.
Yeah, everyone knows everyone knows that ensemble. Historic. Um, but I mean, I'm so proud of you both. But Alexandria, I mean, it's so cool. It's so cool that you're doing that. It's kind of it's surreal, honestly, a little bit. You know,
Yeah,
it's so cool. But
same.
um,
How
yeah.
was your? Oh, I almost switched over.
Oh no,
See how you
I
were
was just
doing
gonna say like
turning.
all of that, like all of the stuff that you were just kind of talking about. I feel that struggle like all the time, you know. Like every day I walk into a classroom, there's a little bit of that kind of thing. Like, what's gonna happen? Like,
Mm.
how's everyone gonna interact with me? You know, and
Yeah.
that's such a determining factor of like how like what I'm gonna do, like what I'm gonna have to do in class, you know, to kind of like make things happen.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought like each teacher would be the same for each class, but no, like you kind of have to like I like kind of switch up. Like one of the classes I'm super goofy. I'm like, "Oh yeah." And like they love it. And the other class I'm like, "Okay."
That's so, see, I feel kind of dumb because I had not considered maybe what it felt like for the teacher, even in college.
I mean, me neither.
You know, just
Yeah.
I'm waltzing in like la la la, woohoo, class. Like, but it's for the teacher, it's such a thing too, like how to command respect in a comfortable space and like get across what you want to get across.
Yeah.
That's the
I've never
worst
thought
stuff.
about that really.
Well, and like I said, I think respect is a pretty low bar. I think like and honestly, I think when students when it seems like in my experience, I think when students seem like they're not being respectful, it's not actually that they're being disrespectful. It's often something else, like something else.
Mm,
And mostly it's that they're really freaked out. You know, it's like a
Mm,
defensive mechanism, you know,
yeah.
and especially like freshmen in college or that kind of thing, like they're just trying to survive. Like that's survival. Like there's like a shield around them, and sometimes that means putting my headphones in. Sometimes that means like not trying. It's like so crazy to me, like for when I was a student. But honestly, like a defense mechanism, just like I don't really care what you're saying, and I'm not gonna try. And it's like not because they really want to do that. Like they showed up.
mm,
They
Yeah.
still showed up. It's
yeah.
like I'm like 1 millimeter away from complete meltdown and like my psyche exploding inside of my body. And so like I have to do this as like a coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's
As
fair.
a teacher,
Yeah.
it's
I
hard to
never
not be
thought of
like,
that.
yeah, as a teacher, it's hard not to be like, this is obviously about me. Like they are
Right.
disrespectful to me. Like,
Yeah.
I
um,
Because how can you not? It's such a personal art.
Yeah.
But
But
it's
yeah,
not
yeah, it's not.
personal.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to have too. Like, okay, like, yeah, like they're like it's not only about me. Like I'm here for them. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever way I can or we can understand what they're going through and
Yeah.
be somewhat of a mind reader. I don't know.
Well, the
good
teacher
luck.
too, like as a role, is selfless, right?
Yeah,
Kind of. Well, yeah, all the way.
all the way.
It
All
can
the
be.
way.
It can be all the way full send. It can be, you know, it can be selfless. Um, but yeah, there's so much to say about all that, and I don't know. But yeah, no, yeah, I didn't have a lot of guidance in that process. Like the first time teaching at the college level and stuff, it was just kind of
Mm.
like I walked in the room and it was like, okay, like
Yeah.
this is crazy. I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. First day just got I didn't even have a key. Like my boss had to let me into the room, so
Oh
it
my gosh.
looked like even more that I was a student.
Yeah.
Like and so then I finally got a key. I'm like, I'm a powerful key.
Yeah,
Open the
yeah, yeah.
door.
If
I
it makes
love
you feel
that.
better, that Alex, that was like the same thing for me this semester. I was like, I think I need a key for this room, and everyone's like, no, definitely no need a
You're
key for that
good.
room.
You don't need a
I
key.
kind of think I need a key. I show up, definitely need a key. And I'm like in a
No.
basement somewhere. I'm like wandering around, like, can someone unlock this door for me? And it's like,
No.
I thought, luckily a student helped me. Like they were like, oh yeah, I know a guy, and it was like,
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
yeah. And this is like, 15 years or something of teaching at the college level, and I still feel that kind of thing. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm such an asshole. Like I don't have
No.
Like, where'd they get this guy to teach this class? You know,
He doesn't even have a key.
doesn't have a key. Does he even work here? Are we sure he's our teacher?
Oh, no.
I've never met him before. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's tough, yeah. It's tough. So my thing I want to talk about this week is was a little bit of an interesting thing. So Ethan Iverson, who's a jazz piano player, famous for being the piano player in the Bad Plus, that trio, but
Yeah.
now does a bunch of different stuff and plays with a bunch of people, and is also on the faculty at New England Conservatory. We've kind of we I think actually the first newsletter that we all wrote together, we were kind of all reacting to this post or this blog post from Ethan about
Right.
like the new like a new jazz pedagogy or a new jazz education, that kind of thing, talking mostly about
Yeah.
but he posted this thing
Right.
yesterday that like really triggered me in a very strange way. And
Oh,
I
no.
kind of understand why, but so he tweeted and he said this is in response to something else from uh, another jazz musician, but he said the more that I learn about the tradition, the more I think jazz is not improvisation. It is a repertoire, including what gets played in the solos. Billy Hart calls it America's classical music for many reasons. So he posted this, and then there have been like pages and pages of tweets, basically like in response to this, and his responses to things, and like him continuing to kind of debate this idea and talk about all these different examples of all these different musicians. I will put the link to his original tweet in like the show notes and stuff, but
Mm.
and I kind of understand his point. I've heard this point before, um, but it's really interesting to me, and I feel like right now where I'm sitting, I disagree with this.
Mm.
That um that I feel like this is a definition of jazz. That is like the music and that it's the songs and
Mm.
that part of the songs. Let me back up for 1 second. So part of his argument too is that the solos that we hear that are like the iconic solos from the canon. I'm sorry if this is getting like really academic or like really in the weeds of like
No, no,
jazz
no.
stuff,
I'm in.
but
Same.
so like the solos that are in the canon. So like John Coltrane on Giant Steps, Miles Davis on So What, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Bill Evans on Sunday at the Village Vanguard, or like Waltz for Debbie, like all
Mm.
these iconic solos, Monk on Straight No Chaser, that these solos are actually more composition than they are improvisation. That the composition thing is more the solos in these solos that we revere and transcribe and all that kind of stuff are more are less in real time than is kind of the assumption or something, or is kind of
Mm.
is the kind of the general thinking about these kind of things. That if you listen to multiple takes of Coltrane playing on Giant Steps, like it's a lot of the same stuff. Just maybe it's like a lot of the same Lego bricks, and maybe some of the same Lego bricks in the same combinations and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And that I think is kind of empirically true. However, um, I think that is just kind of like one definition of what that is, and I think that it it is possible to have other definitions. We know that it's possible
Yeah.
to have other definitions of what jazz is because there are all these definitions of it out in the world. And I've told students as recently as this last week that like if you improvise on a song, then it's jazz. It's not only jazz. Like it does not like that's not in this it does not exclude that it's like maybe also R&B, or that it's maybe also a singer-songwriter thing, or that it's whatever, that it's maybe you know um whatever. But and I think I generally have landed in the on the side of things where I think this conversation about styles and genres and stuff is like really annoying and actually just like causes a lot of fights. But this is
Right.
exactly kind of what's happened right now. Like this kind of has come up because I I actually care much more about improvisation than I do about jazz. And maybe then that's just kind of like where I personally sit in my universe, but like I get very I feel a lot of angst about this kind of take on jazz because it reminds me a lot of the take on that I felt, or it reminds me a lot of the feelings I felt about classical music when I was younger. And it
Mm,
was like I was 18, 19, and they were like, this is classical music. This is the thing. This is the tradition. These are the songs. This is the way you do it.
Yeah.
And you're just a vessel for this stuff that other people have written. And for me, my whole body and soul rejected that. And I was like, I think that's fine for other people. That's just not, that's not me. You know, that's not me. That's not what I want to be for. Like that's not
Yeah.
what my
right.
life would be for. And so it was like, so then it was jazz, you know, and for me that was like the idea of improvisation was the thing that actually led to everything else. Like, why do I care about any jazz repertoire? It's because like, oh, it's like a fun playground to improvise over or play with. Like it's a fun toy to do this thing. Like I think of it more as a play in the sport. You know, it's like calling a play in the
Mm,
huddle. You know, like let's run this play, and
Yeah.
like, but still, I'm gonna play the football game, and I'm gonna do crazy stuff, and like I'll be in the play, I'll be out of the play, I'll make mistakes, I'll do surprising cool things, and I just think that this definition of jazz as like when we get into like when we just start when we're pounding on this idea of tradition and repertoire and stuff, this idea of America's classical music, I think for me, it makes me feel all these really toxic feelings, and I get why someone like Billy Hart, you know, especially back in the day and all this kind of stuff, and other people like other musicians, you know, were really pushing for this to be classical music. I think part of that was about um, I'm making a huge speech. I'm sorry, but like
no, I get
part of
it.
that was about like money, and it was about status and like all that
Right.
being taken
Getting it
seriously.
institutionalized.
Yeah, yeah, um and yeah, I worry that we're gonna make all the same. It's like we're gonna repeat the mistakes of our fathers or something. You know, it's like in this
Mm,
way where it's like we're gonna repeat all the mistakes of classical music in that like that Western tradition. We're gonna repeat all those mistakes, and by going down this road more fully
Yeah.
than we already are. But anyways, this is kind of like it's weird because like I understand what he's saying, and I think that that's part of it or something. But it's the way that some of this stuff is presented too. It's like this is what it is, and if you don't think this way, then you're doing something else. You know.
It's so close-minded. I was gonna say.
yeah.
Why?
It's supposed to be freedom music. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's so interesting that you like this correlation with classical music. Because, yeah, classical music did actually start off improvised. And then later down the line, it became this whole like, oh, like we have to play it in this order. We have these forms and all this stuff. And cool. But like, jazz and improvisation is definitely like a part of that. It has to be.
I just feel like also isn't it about like the person's voice? Because this reminds me of when people are like, well, there's no new idea under the sun. Like I feel like there's a subset of people who are super dark on being creative question mark because like they're like, well, that's already been thought of, or like that's this idea. Like to me it feels like maybe that's part of this like presentation is like, okay, fine, if there's a vocabulary or like a sort of like repetitive. I liked what
Mm.
you used like Lego blocks and even using them in the same combinations. But my question is like, why does that make it like
Wrong
I
or
guess
something.
the only way that makes it less creative is if you kind of if you remove yourself and you're just kind of like, oh, you use the word vessel, but also maybe
Soldier?
like a robot or something like
Jazz robot.
just like executing something. It kind of takes to me it takes like the what you're saying, like the spirit out of it, or like the freedom. That's like a I think like a big overarching idea, but then also maybe in a smaller way, like the personal freedom
Yeah.
too, like the voice out of it.
Yeah. Jazz is not improvisation. I can understand him saying jazz is not improvisation, but maybe jazz is not only improvisation.
Mm.
It's like something that is with like maybe even just changing the wording of whatever he said.
Yeah.
Because it's not only improvisation, but that is a part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, and yeah, and I don't want to also be misrepresenting what he's saying too, because obviously on a tweet you're not able to like fully express a thing. But
Yeah.
so I totally encourage people to go check it out if you're at all interested in this idea. But um, yeah, it just kind of like it like initially kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I think maybe that's has more to do with me maybe than other things even, um. But I get very nervous about that. I mean, in some ways, though, part of his argument reminds me, Amy, what you were talking about last week. You know, in relationship to your dad and like how strongly he feels about like learning tunes and stuff as the way
Yeah.
kind of like to learn the thing. And I think that's kind of what Ethan Iverson is also kind of saying. Like that's part of his earlier writing that he did a few weeks ago about like kind of like how to learn how to play jazz, and that his argument is kind of like the way that we teach jazz right now is kind of bogus, where it's like, okay, if you play so what, like you can just for 3/4 of the tune you can just play all the white keys on the piano, and like it all like works. And I've definitely said things to those like to that effect as like in a way where it's like, yeah, well, like I know this feels really overwhelming, but like you could just you can simplify all these things in these kinds of ways. And I get that like that doesn't lead to playing as a part of this tradition, but I also kind of like honestly, and this comes from someone who has a doctorate in this thing, I kind of don't really give a shit about the tradition as much as I do about like I give a shit about like making new stuff and like being here and now. Like
Yeah.
I think history is really cool, but like not I don't think it's as cool as right now. And I'm not as excited about history as I am about the future and the potential of all of that. And so like I think it's like, yeah, that's cool and I want to learn about it, and I think there's a lot we can learn, and I respect everybody that's done that thing at all that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of like, but I'm like I'm not them, and like they don't give a shit about me. It's like whatever. And like
Yeah.
a lot of these jazz musicians that we revere were like horrible people, and like they were like actively like, I'm the best. No one's ever gonna be no one's ever gonna be as good as me. No one's ever gonna do anything like this, and it's like, I don't know. It just is complicated. It's not like, oh, I need to go lay flowers at the grave of these people, and I'm a white man from Wisconsin, and it's like I don't even really know if I can play. I don't know if I'm even able to play in that tradition. I think I have my own tradition that's like influenced by that, but is also influenced by like Paul Simon and the Packers and stuff and whatever, like whatever that is, like all the stupid
Yeah.
stuff. So um
No, yeah,
it's
oh, sorry,
yeah, it's
Charlie.
complicated. It's
Me and Amy were talking about that literally, like somebody put out a record and we are like, oh, we could have heard that in 1968.
Yeah. We were just saying how it's interesting to hear, like, I think influence is like incredible. Like we were in Cecile,
Yeah.
we were hearing like everybody, like Nancy, Dinah,
Everybody.
everyone, Betty, yeah. But then with we were just talking about how when something, and this is not Cecile, but when something feels like a replicate or just kind of like a, yeah, it's
feels
just been
weird.
comfy.
Like what we were talking about, like what's next? Like that's
Yeah.
been done.
Then who are you type of thing.
Yeah, like what's next? What are you bringing? Like, yes, Cecile, but like she's a great example of like respecting,
transcending.
Yeah, like she played some stuff from like the 1700s, and she like killed it, and she made it her own, and she like
Yeah.
broke whatever rules there were. She was improvising on classical music. So what is that?
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I
Great
think
question.
maybe too the what did you say?
I said it's a great question. That's a great question. What is
It
that?
is. Yeah. Well, it's funny too, like I think um it's just interesting. It's interesting to see what upsets people in the way of like she was singing things last night that I think maybe some more traditional uh classical voice teachers might be like, "Well, like, you know, open the whatever and do the thing." And also I'm not knocking technique because I like technique is I love technique. I could talk a long time about that. Like I really think it's cool to figure out where things are easiest to sing, all the things, whatever. But the point is like her artistry was the priority and she was doing things on purpose and making choices, which to me is
Yes.
like I guess to compare it to life, it's like making choices is more important than just like trying to make sure it's like everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you know, like what's the point of that?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly. I don't know. But yeah, jazz is jazz.
Well, I
Jazz is
also
what you make of it.
that's what I was just I like that what you Charlie to me like you were just kind of like I don't know, it's this and it's that and also the other thing. I think like I'm cool with like leaving it there cuz I can't be more like I'm so uncomfortable being like, and this is what I say, concrete, it's done, you know? Because it's
Yeah.
everything's changing. Like I change my mind. I change my mind like every day. Whenever I learn new things, I'm like, well, guess I might have been wrong about that one.
Wayne Shorter says jazz means I dare you,
Oh, I love that.
which is
Does he
cool.
really?
Yeah. I think that's kind of amazing. It's like, yeah, I dare you to what? Like which means, I mean, for me, that means it's some type of like perpetual motion. Like, I dare you to what, huh? Come at me, bro. Like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen next?
That's
What's
cool.
next?
That also opens like a thing where you can be yourself. It's not as kind of closed minded.
Yeah,
It's kind of like, huh?
exactly.
Well, and yeah, and that Wayne Shorter quartet that has like, that has Danilo and Brian Blade and John Patitucci in it. Like that quartet, I think that's a quartet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was another horn player. That quartet was like they walk on stage and Wayne is just like pop 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 pop, pop, and everyone kind of like plays that. It's like that is that
Yeah.
jazz? It's like did they I know they didn't work that stuff out beforehand,
No,
And
it's completely like free.
yeah, and there's no repertoire there really. It's like I remember going to see them when I was in college. Like they came to my college when I was an undergrad, and it was just kind of like at some point they kind of played a little snippet of Footprints or something. And it was like literally just like Wayne Shorter being like da 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 da
Yes.
like that on the live album it's like Footprints and it's like sure like there none of the chords are like no one's playing the chord like there's no harmony from that song and like that is a little snippet of a thing but so it's like is that jazz and like shouldn't we I don't know I from an educational point of view too like there's this whole kind of thing where like shoving we could do like 4 hours of a podcast on this because
Yeah.
like
We
so
could.
I'm just so wound up about it but like you can. I had this conversation this week about the like learning classical music, like like there's a whole thing where people are like, should every singer learn how to sing like some classical music or like have some experience of doing like an aria or singing an art song or something like that, if they're a voice major or something, and um, I have a similar feeling about that I do about like the tradition of like jazz repertoire, where I'm just kind of like if I have to like convince a student that they should do that or that it's good for them or something like that, it's like I've already lost, like we've already missed the complete
Mm.
point of why that could be cool or interesting for them, It's like
Yeah.
almost every student I've had for a few years or something at some point is like, I'm kind of curious about this other thing, like could we do that kind of a thing or what, it's like that most people kind of get to the point where they're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of interested about like learning about some older version of this, or like
Mhm.
what's the tradition of this, it's like but it's kind of like reading. It's like when your teachers, when my teachers made me read, like in school, I like it was so excruciatingly painful for me, because I just felt so dumb about it. I was like I'm still a very slow reader, but it's like um, when I was completely out of school and I started kind of like getting curious about it, I was like, maybe I would like to read a little bit. And now I just have like stacks and stacks of books. I like love reading so much. And
Hmm.
it's like I came to it on my own and I like found like I get it. And when someone was telling me I needed to do it, that was really rough for me. And I think the same thing is like going down this road by talking about like you have to learn like the old Count Basie heads or something like that. If you don't do that, like you're not a jazz musician. It's like that's a great way of like kind of turning a lot of people off of this thing.
Yeah.
That um,
It's also, I cut you off.
I need it to be cut off. I need to be cut off.
No, you don't, guys.
No,
I was
no.
just gonna say, I think that the weirdest part is like the artists that we love so much or admire so much are just doing whatever the free bleep they want. Literally, like,
Yeah.
and the weird thing is like, I guess it's kind of like being a human too. Like, the more self-aware and aware of other things you are, like, maybe that leads to some depth. But also, like, if you're just learning something because you were told you have to, you lose the depth anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like people who shed the things. Oh my gosh, Alex is saving me with a charger right now. My computer's fully dying. Not to just like take the wind out of this. I just don't want to also have my computer die. But it's funny to me that it seems like kind of a loop, because it's like if you want to shed the thing, then it's going to show that you shed the
Yeah.
thing and then you did the other thing. And that's awesome. But then as soon as it's because you have to, or because it's like something else, it just
Yeah.
things get convoluted and weird. And it's like, but if it is jazz, like, you need to know about this so you can be self-aware, but you can't force self-awareness on other people
Yeah.
or depth on other people. I don't know. Was that even a complete thought? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah,
Excuse
I
me
do.
while I plug this in.
Well, I will wrap up by saying I very much respect Ethan Iverson as a musician and as a thinker and all that kind of stuff. I think he's really smart. So, and I respect his opinion on this, and that he's like, I think it also takes some bravery to kind of like go out and say something like that, knowing that
Yeah.
it's gonna definitely be at least 50-50 at best case scenario that people are gonna be upset about it, like I kind of was. But again, I encourage everyone to go check out his real words on this.
His real words.
His real words on this, and not my whatever, not my hot take.
No. Well, speaking of jazz, um,
Should we hop into the
any
newsletter?
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Look at us go.
NEA jazz master, drummer, and educator Terri Lyne Carrington published new standards 101 lead sheets by women composers. I love this woman. She's like, remember that one week we were talking about like mentors and like have them taking you under her wing and under their wing and like really like just like nurturing you. She just did this with all of I'm about to cry. Wow, she did it for like women in jazz, and she did it for like her friends that deserved like the spotlight, and now they have like women of all ages that she's probably mentored or have mentored her have now like a book.
Awesome.
And then like in the process, like my friends worked on the book too, like, and they're so young, and like I don't know, she's just like, I love this woman, even though I've only met her like twice. And I know but like, wow, her artistry, and then just like her doing this. Anyway, so buy this book. For too long, jazz standards have all been almost exclusively men. speaking of like repertoire and all this stuff. Um, but this is a book. It's on sale. You can get it at Barnes and Noble or actually anywhere, Amazon, all your favorite places. But it includes so many different eras from Lil Hardin, Armstrong, all the way up to Elena Penderhughes, Cassandra Wilson, Esperanza, of course. Shout out Devin Gates. She's great too. She has one of her. She's like a super young bassist and vocalist who's super killing. Um, anyways, this is just like a continuation of Terry's efforts in providing ginger justice to jazz. She's been doing this through her Berkeley Ginger and Jazz and Jazz and Ginger Justice Institute at Berkeley, where she's doing a lot of work there with breaking the patriarchy in jazz. So I don't know what else to say about this book other than that it has been needed in the jazz world for a really long time, and I hope that other institutions will consider having this be a part of the standard repertoire, I guess, or just at least having their students hip to a lot of this music.
Exposing people to it.
Yeah, to these composers and women that are just badasses and deserve the same amount of recognition, if not more, than the people that we already know about and love as well. That's all I have to say about that.
There's been really great buzz about this, just around like in all the sectors at least that I'm kind of like aware of. There have been people talking about it, and like people are just kind of like, I don't know, coming up to the people and like, have you heard about this book? And like all this kind, and it's just like it's so cool. I don't actually remember energy like this about something like something like this, like a book of music, for like almost like kind of forever. So um is obviously like a huge deal. And I think like, yeah, and it's not just kind of like what you're saying, Alexandria. It's like, it's not even just like the music and stuff. It's just like the savvy of this, like to get this done and to get it done so well, and
Yeah.
and to have such like great buzz and press about it, and and uh like visibility. I think it's just like, it's so huge, and it's like exactly what the time calls for. We need like 100 more of these books, and
Yes.
we just need it to be super accessible to everybody and all of that kind of stuff.
So important for little girls.
Yeah.
Just makes me think
You
about
know.
like young girls starting out on an instrument or whatever they want to do, just so they know that they can.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I'm like hoping in the future, like you see everyone have like a real book in their, bookshelf if they're like a jazz musician. And I'm hoping this book is like, I mean, she says volume one, so obviously there are going to be other volumes, and I'm so excited about that. But I hope that becomes a part of the new, everyone has this book on their bookshelf type thing, and
Yeah.
and it not only inspires like just musicians can be musicians, but not every musician is a composer. So to inspire not only like women musicians, but also to inspire those, maybe they're musicians, but now they're inspired to be more taking a more compositional stance on
Mhm.
things. And I don't know. It, yeah. I have so much respect for this woman.
Yeah. I think next step is like not having a separate book that's
Yeah.
beat sheets by women composers is kind of like, um this has been a topic of conversation, of the way that kind of we've been talking about diversity too, and like repertoire and all that kind of stuff, where it's like the and this happens too at schools, when it's like we need more diverse faculty, and so they just like hire another faculty member, but they don't like do the hard work of like having it be kind of like integrated, and like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
just like have like feeling like it's like, no, we actually kind of
Real.
want to like rewrite this. And so I think this is a great first step.
Yeah.
or first, I'm sure it's not the first step. I'm sure there's been a lot of steps along the way. There's been a lot of progress and hard work, and for a long time by a lot of awesome people. But it's kind of like we need to go back and just like tear up all those old books and just now and like just
Integrated.
and just like fit it all to put it all together and have it be more balanced and all that kind of stuff, like from brass tacks, or like from
Yeah.
foundational kind of stuff. But this is a huge first step, and like everyone needs to have this on there, even if you're not a jazz musician, anything like. I think like everybody needs to have this book on their bookshelf and like check it out. It is so diverse too musically,
Yeah.
that there's like really kind of something for everybody. There's weird stuff, there's like straight ahead stuff, there's like poppier stuff or whatever. There's like all different kinds of things here. It's pretty
Yeah. Ah! Yeah, I was just so excited yeah.
Okay, so our next point brings us to a man named Skip Greer, who is a Rochester cat. Never mind. Okay. Anyways, here's a quote by him. You can't create and analyze at the same time. So this is something that I was exposed to, I guess, the summer after my junior year of high school. I did this 5-week theater program. And this guy is kind of like the idea vat of the whole thing at this place called Jiva Theater. So Skip Greer is an actor, director, and teacher, and he's the artist in residence and director of education at Jiva Theater. So Jiva is really cool because it's a regional theater, but they have this education wing that just deeply invests in the community and in young artists. And this quote in particular, it changed my life really, because it's like something I'm constantly battling, is like letting go of the practice mentality and then just letting myself experience and like be, and kind of just learning how to do that. And so I don't know, I've just been thinking a lot about how powerful mentors can be, and the things they say and the way that they are and the things that they do. Like, all these things I think are so influential to not necessarily young artists, but just impressionable artists, like artists who are learning. And Skip is somebody who just like, he just cares so much about creating something and making change. Yeah, and then I think really the kicker that I see here is, I just think it's amazing how a mentor's philosophy and character can affect the lives that they influence. So
Preach.
yeah, just been thinking about good teachers.
Yeah.
They started a new thing too. They started the Actors Studio of Rochester. So what they have is like professionals all across the theater industry, who want to create a home for artists to learn, grow, explore, create, and incubate artistic ideas. The thing I love about this is that's what Jiva felt like to me. It's like you see all of these professionals doing their thing, and it's so collaborative and inspiring to be around because it's so real life, but somehow the art thrives. It has like one of those colony feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, where it's so insular, but it still feels like, oh, things can happen in real life, you know?
I like that. The one, like, as a mentor, you have the ability to mold someone else's reality, so it's not something that you should take lightly, and it sounds like this man does not take that lightly. Like, creating a space where you can cultivate such a unique, not unique, but like deserving space of creativity that allows for growth and artistry and being oneself and being true to one's values. I think that's amazing. And that can only facilitate and make good, honest artists.
Yeah. Good teachers. We got to kick Charlie off so we can talk about him.
Yeah, for real.
We don't need to talk about me. We're talking about Skip here.
They changed your life. Yes.
The quote from this, I don't know if you said it, Amy, but the quote that we pulled was decide who you are and let that take you
Oh
where
yeah.
you're going. Don't get to where you're
Oh my
going
God.
and then try to decide who you are. It'll be too late.
Yeah.
This is one of Skip's like specialties too, is saying these things that are so obvious, but then he says it and you're like, whoa, yeah.
I mean, this just feels like at the heart of this conversation I have with so many of my students where they're like, I'm just trying to figure out my sound, you know? And that to me very much feels like I think it sounds like what they're saying is like, I just want to figure out who I am. I don't think that's
Mhm.
what they're saying though. I think they're saying like, I just want to know what my first album is going to sound like that everyone's going to love. Like that I'm going to get that
Yeah.
5-star review. I just want to know what that sounds like, and it's like I do really think that's kind of where you're going, like that's like that feels like more like they're interested in in the destination, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh, what is that going to look like? What's that stamp? And
Mm.
and so it's kind of like, well, it's impossible to know. Like if you decide what that is now, like that will be pretty fake, I think, and pretty
Yeah.
manufactured and probably a cheap copy of something else, And,
Mm.
I'm here for copying stuff. I'm here for stealing like an artist, like steal ideas that you like or whatever and like put them through your filter. Um, but that kind of whole thing of like, yeah, like strip all that other stuff away that, like I think most of my influences, like how I sounded when I was like 18, 19, 20 was like a combination of like mostly things that I had listened to when I was like 13. Like, and it's like, I don't know why I'm just like copying and pasting like ad nauseum these things that I like liked when I was 13. I'm like, is that really who I am? Like, I listened to like Weird Al Yankovic and stuff when I was 13. I listened to I
Ah!
listened to so much garbage. I was like, like movie soundtracks and stuff. It was like,
Oh
I don't
my
know. It was like,
gosh.
I was like, that's not who I am, But, um, yeah, but this seems like a beautiful kind of thing. Yeah, mentorship, teachers, uh, reach out to your mentors and teachers and tell them thank you.
Yes.
Yes. And
This is the
read the
thing I did.
Foray
Yeah.
article on
On
mentorship.
mentorship, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did some of that this summer, like just reaching out to some of my old teachers and stuff that I was not super in touch with, but that had been really positive influences on me, and they were like shocked. They were like, "Oh my God,
Aw.
Mm.
Charlie, I had no idea." Um,
It's
so
like life's changing things that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
also call your parents. Okay, next,
Yes.
your
Oh my
grandparents.
gosh.
Okay, our
I'm gonna
last
cry.
primary A for this week's newsletter was the challenges of touring that no one talks about, and I think so there's a Twitter post. This is actually maybe over a month ago that I'd kind of like saved because I was like, man, I want to talk about this. It's kind of interesting, and I haven't really had a chance to post it before or share it. But Michaela Ann, who is a Nashville-based singer-songwriter, posted on Twitter. This is like a theme for me, I guess, of my life. It's like I saw this thing
Twitter.
on Twitter and I had feelings. Um,
Yes.
but uh, but but basically, her first tweet was every musician I know who's out touring, releasing records, and looking like their careers are going great. When we talk one on one, every single one shares how financially, emotionally, logistically stressful and challenging it really is behind the scenes. The crux of her message, and she had a huge response to this from a bunch of musicians, but the uh, kind of wrapping up her thoughts on this was basically it's wild times right now. I personally think the only way to keep on keeping on is through honesty and community.
Mm.
And this is kind of this thing where it's like if everyone's blinking, then we can all pretend like it's really easy and glamorous and that the food is always really nice and everyone always treats us really nice on the road and like we're all rock stars and whatever and we're making tons of money. But um, I don't know. I think that messes everybody. I think that kind of messes us all up because then
Yeah.
when we're there, um, and it's not like that, we're like, oh, obviously I failed at this. But it's like, oh no, actually you're doing it. Like you're really actually doing it. You're succeeding at this, but this is actually what succeeding at this looks like. And so if you came here for the fancy Instagram meals or the whatever the parties or something. It's like,
What if we just accidentally shut down all social media for like 4 months and didn't explain it
has
to
to be
anyone?
accidentally.
I'm just saying, like, I just think I hate it. Anyway.
Or what if
Ugh.
we were just honest on social media?
No,
I hate be
but
real.
that's worse though. Because what
think?
happens, yes, because TikTok was cool at the beginning because people were being themselves, but then they realized people were watching them and then they started being themselves as if people were watching them.
True.
You know, like
No,
it's
you're
so
right.
rare for people to be like, I don't know, really truly who they are
But
in
they-
front of so many people.
But you do that on the street too, you know what I mean? Like we think people are watching us. Like, you know when you fall
Yeah.
going up the stairs?
Yes.
You're like, oh, I hope no one saw that. I hope no one saw. Like, it's in some sense we may be always feeling
Yeah, but
watched.
when it's like produced things though,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I should back off. I feel like I'm coming on strong
No,
with
no, no,
this,
you're
but
not.
I just like I've been thinking about this so much because I used to like put things on my story and now I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. I just feel so weird. I just think it's weird. It's like I don't know. It creates such a false sense of like something like community, but it's not at all.
Yeah.
But more than that, I think the weird part is like the idea of like the larger scale stuff, like people who blow up over being like real. and then like the first video that was like genius comedy and beautiful humanness turns into this like I'm so weird and cool and different.
Hey guys,
me.
this video is brought to you
Guys.
by our great sponsor this week.
Yeah, thank you for sponsoring me this week. Something super relatable. I'm just a girl in the world who's now being sponsored. It's anyways.
I totally feel you. I agree with both of you. I think actually part of the biggest rub for me is this kind of like mixing of the professional and personal life. Like in like Instagram and some other things are really in some ways the only way that I seems like I can actually communicate in any sort of way with some of my friends. Like some of my friends are just I can send them a text message or something and they will like not respond. Or some of my friends are like not that good of friends that if like I send them a text message, they're gonna think I'm like it's a scam or something, you know? But like
Wait, that happened to me because I texted a family friend that I moved and he texted my mom. He was like, "Is that Amy?" Because he's a family friend of my parents anyway. He was like,
she
"Are
asked
you
me for,
sure
like,
that's her?"
$400. Should I send her money?
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, for real. I think there's that thing. But then I also like, and then social media is also, there's a monopoly, you know, like Google and Facebook and the things that they own, like that accounts for something like over 80% or something of marketing, of all marketing dollars and
Really?
stuff. It's like 80%, you know, and it's like, so if you want to promote something you're doing, you release an album, you have a show, whatever, you know, it's like if you want to release anything you're doing, and these are like the platforms that we're actually like creating our thing on, like we're creating our music, you know, it's like there was like especially during
But it's
the
not a
pandemic.
platform. Sorry.
It's not a platform.
I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't make any sense. Like the art doesn't make sense there because it doesn't. It's like this
I think
idea
this
of
is why
like,
this is confusing though. And I think this is why it's complicated, why
yeah.
people have complicated feelings because like, I mean, are like are recordings a platform? Is like stage a platform? You know, like like are record labels a platform? Are streaming services a platform? Is radio a platform? Is television a platform? You know, and it's like all of these things are also taking advantage of musicians. You know, like they're making money off that stuff. If they didn't make money off musicians, like musicians wouldn't be allowed on it. You know, like basically there wouldn't be music on any of these things. Like
Yeah.
Sorry.
there wouldn't be gigs. You know, if people weren't making money from it.
My biggest like I get so mad whenever I see someone lip syncing on like TikTok and you think that it's actually the person and that's like total erasure of whatever the artist just put out and people don't take the extra step to look who put out the actual sound that's on the TikTok.
Yeah.
Let's just not even. I'm gonna get so mad.
That's like total erasure of artistry. Like it like that they didn't even try to hide it. They didn't even try to hide it. You could try to hide it, but that's like blatant erasure of artistry.
This is the podcast where everyone gets upset, and so I think I'm already knowing, like, based on Alex's saying at the end of the pod, it's like that's actually so apropos for like what this pod is going to be called, because it's like we're all kind of like, oh my god, I'm raging.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. But to kind of wrap this thing up, is like it's not musicians' fault, because they're doing like what they're doing is trying to promote their thing, and like it's not just other musicians that are it's least of all other musicians that are seeing what they're posting. It's like their fan base and potential fan base and all that kind of stuff that are seeing their thing, and it's like, I don't know, if I see someone like eating in a McDonald's, and like it looks like they haven't showered for like days, and they're like living out of a van, and it's like, do I really want to go pay $30 to see them? Like maybe I'm like, are they legit or something? It's like and I'm just being honest about it. Like I don't feel good about feeling that, but like even when if I'm scrolling through YouTube or I'm gonna like listen to a podcast, I'm like, okay, they have this guest. I've never heard of them before. Like, I don't know. That's a heavy lift for me. Like, I have to kind of like take a leap. And I think we're just kind of like, as consumers of things too, like we've been really conditioned to like, we love a sequel, we love a big name star, we love like we're kind of buying into some of the glamour too. Like sometimes, like you went to the Blue Note, and like there was a lot of fame, and there was a lot of like glitz and glamour to that. Even in jazz, like
Yeah.
like a pretty humble way too. But it's like you're at the Blue Note, you're seeing Cecile, who's like, she's a celebrity, really. And like you're at a famous place, and it's like all that the pathos to that, and it's like, and that's why you buy the tote bag. I'm just saying, I'm like,
I needed a tote bag, Charlie.
I know.
No, you're right. You're right.
But it's like,
No,
we do this, and it's real, and it's a really complicated thing to like also be living in that, like living in between those spaces, like having both those spaces where it's like, I have to be like, I'm kind of lying about this, but it's like everyone lies about it, and it's like my work, but it's also my life, and it's like these are the muddy waters of all of this that I think is really hard.
Let's call this podcast Muddy Waters.
Oh, he needs some more recognition too.
Yeah, like, where's his fake book? Where's the Muddy Waters?
Yeah. It's called, okay.
New
music.
We got new weeks this music. No, we have new music this week.
Oh my God, that's how it feels.
From Madison Cunningham and Terri Lyne Carrington. Have you ever heard of Terri Lyne Carrington? Have we talked about her at all before?
I don't think so.
Speak of the devil.
Should we start there?
It's okay.
Should we start there? So there's the new standards. The book we talked about at our first A. There's an album. This is volume 1 of this, and this was also released this week-ish or something in the last week or so.
I suggest listening to it on Apple Music, because they definitely have like the better audio quality going on there.
Big shout out to Apple. Thank you for not sponsoring us for another week, Apple. I've been calling. But yeah.
It's great.
Calling.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a great album, and I mean, they've talked. Terri Lyne Carrington has talked about like doing multiple volumes of this, which they could do kind of like from now until the end of time. But it's got some of our favorite people on here: Chris Davis, Linda Mahan O, Nicholas Payton, Michael Mayo, Ambrose Akinmusiri. I feel like I'm very nervous about saying that, but Ravi Coltrane, great stuff. Samara Joy, Julian Lodge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Am I pronouncing?
Lodge.
If I pronounce any of these names right, then it's a great night for me.
You did all of them correct.
Did all of them? I was pretty close. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, bunch of interesting people and cool people, and like super
stacked.
stacked. This whole album is like all over the map too, in really interesting ways. So I think there's something for everybody. Very cool.
Definitely.
And actually, what's kind of funny about this, I've been thinking about this actually all for the last week or so since there's been kind of the marketing push for this stuff. Like Herbie Hancock came out with this album in 1996 called The New Standard, which is kind of funny, and it's like Beatles tunes and like pop tunes like in the 80s and 90s and 70s and stuff, and it was so popular. Like I think it maybe won a Grammy that year or something, but it was like everyone was talking about it and like talking about it for years. I remember like in 2001, people were still like my teachers would still bring up like, "Oh, have you heard this new Herbie Hancock
Hey.
album? Yeah, he's doing pop music now." And I'm like, "What if jazz musicians been playing since forever? Like they've all been playing pop music." Um, so I don't know. It's just kind of funny. It's like every 30 years we need to release a new thing that says the new standard.
The
The new standard.
Yeah. It's like, why haven't we just been making new standards the whole time? Like, why do we all of a sudden have to like wait a long time and be like, you know what? It's not just Gershwin
time.
anymore. It's not just Tin Pan
Yeah.
Alley. It's not just Broadway. Like, no, there are new things that can be standards. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, thank you for joining the chat. Okay, Madison Cunningham, who I didn't know much about this week. I think I had listened to her previous album, but it was not kind of like in my brain rattling around so much. But this new album, Revealer, that she released last week, is absolutely amazing. It's so
Yeah.
cool, and there's a lot going on production wise and songwriting wise, and like the performances are really cool. And I don't know, I've just been really surprised with it. This has been one of the kind of albums that I've been surprised with it because it was not on my radar, I would say. Not surprised
Ah.
about it for any other way, but it was just not on my radar. And it was like, it was here, and it was like people were talking about it too. And I was like, oh my God, this is cool. But also for me, my experience of it was that it took a couple listens to really kind of like fully click for me, and like for me to kind of like hear different layers of the texture and all that kind of stuff. Not I liked it at first, but I liked it more and more and more the more I listened to it, which is really cool. Are either of
That
you a
is cool.
fan of?
Yeah.
We sang. Wait, what year was that? Yeah, we sang
Sing for Kelly.
a Madison Cunningham chart at school.
Recital?
That was my first introduction to her. What?
Like in a recital or?
No,
Or
in JV.
She wrote a cool arrangement.
Yeah.
Um,
Remember?
yeah. And it was
Yeah.
great.
It was so fun to sing.
Yeah, Madison Cunningham is kind of atrocious
But
in a good way. You know what I
so
mean?
bad. I need to check her out more though, because like honestly, that song and then a couple of other songs on that album are my only exposure to her. I haven't really done the dive. I need to check this out.
She's fantastic.
But the arranging too, I noticed, at least on Remember was really,
I
really
think that was
cool.
Kelly.
No, but it was cool because I heard what she arranged, kind of like it was definitely like her voice, but I feel like it was
the essence.
influence. Yeah, the essence. That's a great way to put it. Like the essence of Madison was in there.
yeah, and we're
Just with the
shouting out
strings
Kelly
and
Chang,
stuff.
who's one of our good friends and a great
Yeah.
Yes, Kelly.
Kelly.
Also
love
a
her.
songwriter.
Thanks for listening.
Who's got
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. We're gonna wrap it up. Our extra credit this week was Bjork's 1994 home studio, which I think is funny. It's just like her sitting in a very empty room, like with a little tiny kind of Casio keyboard, and then one of like the like an old school like multi-track recording thing and a couple of little speakers, and she's like seems very into it and all that kind of stuff. It's funny how like there's been such a full circle of this where it's like now probably a home recording studio could like literally be less than this. Like if you look at like it's like when when you go to like Billie Eilish's and Phineas's like house, and you're like in Phineas, like you see the video and like there's like you're in Phineas's bedroom and he's like, I got my one little computer and
Look at me.
and that's how we did it. We did the whole thing. Billy's just like sitting on the bed, like singing this whole
I
album.
feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, why do I have an image in my brain of this? I think I've seen this video.
Oh, did you see the documentary? Did you see their documentary that they
I have
did?
not.
No, but I somehow
so
have seen
cool.
this footage that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's been knocking around. But I mean
check it
it's
out.
older-ish now. But there's an awesome documentary of them of them like doing stuff. I don't remember if it's like Apple TV or something like that, but it's on a streaming thing. But
We'll check it out.
but anyways, I think that was our newsletter this week. We got really sidetracked a lot, but I think it was like super fun.
Yeah, it
we
was
did
super fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening and supporting us. Foray Music. Remember to like and subscribe. And just a note that if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out a lot. Anyways. Oh no. I'm falling apart. But yeah, if you leave a review, we'd love to read or highlight your comments on next week's show. Should I change that because we're not doing one next week?
Yeah, we're probably taking a week off. We haven't worked that out yet. But if you're listening to this now and you're like, man, where's the next episode? Just go back and listen to one of the older episodes, or give us send us a text message and ask us for money or something.
Right, something like that. So for more, follow us on Instagram at Foray Music. Subscribe to our newsletter at foraymusic.substack.com. Do it. I can say things. And also check out our website at foraymusic.com.
Speak of the devil, John Legend.
It's so weird to do the saying without any context, but I kind of like
know.
it. Okay, we think you're super. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.